Coming to you live from Indianapolis. It is time to bring in the stadium tour. Lucas Oil Stadium, like everything in this great state of Indiana that is related to athletics, it's built like a field house. See the big windows over there? Maybe if we walk to the very top of the upper deck, as is tradition for us, which would be over there, I think those are the highest seats, maybe we can see downtown Indianapolis. But this is where the 49ers and the Colts are going to be playing football tonight. Monday Night Football, as you can tell, it's gotten dark outside. I know it's not dark yet back on the West Coast, but these games start late, 8:15 p.m. local time, because we are in the Eastern time zone in the house that Peyton Manning built. It's opened in 2008, replaced the old RCA Dome. So Manning and Tom Brady played a lot of great games, both in this new building and in the old one, which I believe was on the same site as Lucas Oil Stadium here in downtown Indianapolis. Now, one of the good things here in downtown Indy is that you can walk very easily from your hotel to the stadium. So we're gonna make this trek. I always do this. I gotta be careful. I can't fall here over the ledge. We're gonna make the trek to the very, very highest seat in Lucas Oil Stadium, as is our tradition. If you have any questions about this game, now is probably your time. I'll try to answer them as this video progresses and while I show you one of the stadiums that the 49ers don't visit all too often. In fact, the last time they played a regular season game here was 2017. George Kittle scored his first career touchdown on that end zone. This was Kyle Shanahan's first season. It was one of the first 5 games of that season. I think it was either week 4 or week 5. The 49ers lost in overtime, but Kittle scored with less than a minute left. It was a 4th and goal conversion from Brian Hoyer. It was on that end zone. He barely got it across the line. And it was also the same stadium in which he ran his 4.5 at the NFL Scouting Combine. This is the Scouting Combine Stadium. The Indiana Convention Center is that way. I think you could see a little bit of downtown Indianapolis through the window right there. There's the skyline. So they do a lot of it in the convention center. Then they do the on-field drills right here on the field at Lucas Oil Stadium. So these 49ers players today, even if they haven't played a game here, most of them very familiar with this stadium because it is what hosts the NFL Scouting Combine. Kittle, by the way, was a monster at the NFL Scouting Combine. Hard to believe that he slipped to the 5th round based on his numbers there. So this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go up to the very top over there behind me. If you guys wanna see the pathway that I'm gonna take, this is some intense structural support. This place, by the way, has a retractable roof. They're not gonna open it because it's gonna be 30 degrees outside tonight, but this is the retractable roof. I think you could probably see some of the tracks up above me. This is holding up the roof. Capacity somewhere between 60 and 70,000. Nicely built stadium. You know, I think it's aged well since it opened 6 years before Levi Stadium in 2008. And much of it looks like more modern than Levi's, I have to say. Here's the Colts banners. Take a look at what they've accomplished. Of course, the Super Bowl under Peyton Manning. I'm looking for the Super Bowl banner. I guess they have that. Oh, it must be over there. Yep, Super Bowl banners further away from us. NFL champion. No, that's AFC champions, 2009. Where'd that Super Bowl banner? Oh, there it is. It's a big one, 2006. Super Bowl champions, Peyton Manning and the Indianapolis Colts. See, I told you, he built the stadium. So we're gonna continue our walk. Let's make it down the, oh, by the way, cowboy boots are in full style tonight. We got the ostrich. I figured the 49ers were playing the Colts. That's like a team whose mascot is a horse. So we had to cowboy boots. All right. Walk is continuing. You guys can look at the ceiling of this building as I head down the steps, and then we're going to go back up the steps. Got to go up these ones right here. Flip the camera around, up to section 629. Yep, we got George Kittle recommended the ostrich boots to me. I have the Cayman boots, which are the ones you guys saw before, and then George said, hey, you've got to get the ostrich because it just breaks in and Feels really, really comfortable, really nice, and looks really nice too. Here, we're at the end zone section. We've got the boots, and now these boots are going to take us up to the very top of Lucas Oil Stadium. First players are on the field. May just be Colts players, maybe a couple Niners guys, I can't tell. The bus just got here a few minutes ago. 49ers stayed over at the JW Marriott. Like I said, all the hotels are easily accessible to the stadium. So I walked here, saw a lot of 49ers fans on the way. 49ers did not walk here. They took a bus and a police escort, but it was at most a 2-minute drive for the 49ers. All right, it's gonna be daunting, it's steep. I think this is the one we gotta do though. We're gonna make it all the way up. Let's go. All right, I'm ready to answer some questions here as I do head up the steps. Somebody asking what the key to stopping Jonathan Taylor is. Well, as I reported earlier today, and it's now confirmed, Eric Kendricks is going to be active for the 49ers. They have elevated him from the practice squad. He's going to be, I think, the Sam linebacker, the third linebacker. So I think you're going to see a lot of base defense for the 49ers. 4-3. And the one weakness against the run has really been that big nickel package with Jason Pinnock. So I think just getting bigger, setting a firm edge, and being rigid at linebacker is really key for the 49ers run defense. You guys don't know how hard it is to talk and walk up to the very, very top of the upper deck, but I have officially made it. There we are. We can flip the camera around. I'm taking a seat to continue our discussion. This is what the ultimate nosebleed row of Lucas Oil Stadium looks like. Back that way is a window. Your seat 23 in honor of Christian McCaffrey. There's the field here in Indianapolis. Question, over or under on Christian McCaffrey 150 scrimmage yards? It's a really good question. It's a crapshoot. I mean, he could explode for 200 plus for all we know. I think, the Colts are on paper a really good run defense. They're number one in the league. They allow the fewest yards per carry, 3.7 yards per carry. The pass defense is much weaker for the Colts analytically, and they're missing their top two cornerbacks today. They're missing Sauce Gardner, and they're missing Charvarius Ward, the former 49er. However, that could mean that the Colts will drop more guys back in coverage and play the run a little bit softer, which would make the run the go-to for Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers. You just never know. You can't just judge it based on what they're strong and what they're weak at, because teams can compensate, and I expect the Colts to try to compensate fully against either the run or the pass, and for them it would be compensating against the pass because they are missing those top two corners. So we just have to see how the game will play out. Everybody always asks me, is the run or the pass going to be key? Neither. Balance is going to be the key for the 49ers. It always is. You have to be balanced to keep the defense in a compromised position. And that's why guys like George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey, just these adaptable, multi-positional talents, are so key for Kyle Shanahan, because he's always preached balance. That's when the 49ers offense has been at its best. And that's why it gives defenses, even the best defenses in the league, so much trouble when it's fully stocked, because you don't know if they're going to run or if they're going to pass out of any given formation. Somebody's saying Sky Moore, jet sweep. I mean, he's a gadget weapon. He's a really good one at that. He's very good on special teams. I'm sure that they have a couple plays for Sky Moore. Whether or not they get to them, I don't know. But, I mean, this is a tactical back and forth, right? Lou Anarumo is the Indy defensive coordinator. He used to be with the Cincinnati Bengals. He will really, really diversify what he brings. They're going to see a mixture of coverages, a mixture of man, mixture of zone. You're going to see a lot of blitzes, but he doesn't necessarily have to blitz, and he can go long, dry spells without a blitz. He is a veteran defensive coordinator and one of the tougher guys to face because he is so multiple with his looks. Now, one big disadvantage for the 49ers is that they don't have Ricky Pearsall for today's game. Obviously, no Brandon Ayuk. Also no Ricky Pearsall. This has been the one thing that has constrained the 49ers offense consistently this year. When they don't have Pearsall, they have trouble separating on the outside. When they have trouble separating on the outside, they're very Christian McCaffrey dependent, not only on production, but on separation. And you've seen the low explosive play rate for the 49ers in games without Ricky Pearsall this year. That is a direct byproduct of the lack of separation space that they're working with. So I think there's a lot of pressure tonight on the wide receiver position in particular to step up and pick up slack without Ricky. Juwan Jennings is a given. I mean, he's the snap leader in the receiver room on a week-by-week basis. They need somebody else to really pick up a lot of the slack, though, and I think that tonight could be a big Kendrick Bourne game. Tonight might need to be a big Kendrick Bourne game if the 49ers want to fire away on all cylinders offensively. Then on the defensive side of the ball, I mean, let's talk about Phillip Rivers. I mean, I want to know how much of that game plan against Seattle, which was a bunch of short throws, was influenced by the fact that Phillip Rivers is 44 years old and may not be able to push the ball downfield, and how much of it was influenced by the fact that Seattle's got one of the scariest pass rushes in the league. I'm sure both of those things were at play when the Colts just threw for 2 yards at a time against the Seahawks and almost beat them, by the way. You have to recognize that. So I'm sure that both of those dynamics were at play, but I want to know which one was stronger. And we should find out really, really damn quick today because the 49ers do not have a good pass rush. Now, I mentioned that Kendricks has been elevated from the practice squad. Yetur Gross-Matos has been activated from injured reserve. That is a big, big addition for the 49ers defensive line. The 49ers actually are going to play 5 defenders who are starting caliber defenders who were not in the lineup last week against Tennessee. That to me is a huge deal. The 49ers are going to have Yetur Gross-Matos, Eric Kendricks. Kendricks started for the Cowboys last year. I think he's going to start at the Sam linebacker position today for San Francisco. They're going to have Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle, back in the lineup. They're going to have Tatum Bethune, starting Mike linebacker, back in the lineup. And they're going to have Sam Okawanu, defensive end, back in the lineup, coming off the high ankle sprain, just like Tatum Bethune. The defense has missed 15 and 11 tackles, respectively, over its past 2 games. You guys know me. I always say, I'm showing off the ostrich boots again. Oh, that's a good shot. Although it's too backlit. Yeah, too backlit. Can't really see anything. Maybe we should zoom in on downtown. You know, I always say that you've got to keep the missed tackle number under 10 to consider it a sound tackling game. Early in the season, the 49ers had several performances under 10 total missed tackles for the game. Against Seattle in week 1, they only had 3. I mean, that was an airtight performance for San Francisco. Only 3 missed tackles. But toward the bye week, they started really missing tackles, and it's because that's directly correlated to fatigue, and they were tired. And they missed 15 against the Browns, and it wasn't good enough. They missed 11 against the Titans, and obviously these were good enough numbers to win, but the offense was carrying the load for the 49ers in really both of those games. And I think they got to get it back to single digits today. And it's going to be more important than maybe ever this season to get the missed tackle numbers under 10 today. The boost coming from the 5 players who the 49ers are getting back on defense should really help. But you have to consider how big of a challenge this is going to be. The Colts still lead the NFL in rushing efficiency. The Colts, I mean, despite the fact that it has really cratered over the time since week 12 when their starting quarterback to begin the year, Daniel Jones, broke his fibula, they built enough of a lead over the rest of the NFL in terms of rushing efficiency that they're still number 1. Hey, Jonathan Taylor was averaging 6 yards a carry 3 months into this season. These guys, I mean, they can block you from the guard position especially. Quentin Nelson is, I think, one of the best to ever do it at the guard position. I mean, he's a really, really good player at left guard for Indianapolis. So the 49ers are going to have to put their big boy pants on, tackle against the run, shed blocks against the run. It's huge that they get Jordan Elliott, Sam Okawanu, Yetur Gross-Matos, Eric Kendricks in that lineup today. I think that's massive, but this is still going to be a game of technique and desire. And I realize that the Colts run game has dropped off since they've lost the quarterback threat that came with Daniel Jones at the start of the season. But Phillip Rivers brings at least some of that threat there, even at age 44. So it's going to take a very, very disciplined effort for the 49ers. Now, Tim Ryan mentioned this on KMBR, and I agree with him. When the 49ers are simply rushing the passer, I think they can go for broke. I don't think that you have to worry too much about a contained pass rush because Phillip Rivers is not going to outrun you. Phillip Rivers is not going to run out of this building on you. That's the one advantage I'm sure that the 49ers are going to have on paper in this game. When Rivers drops back the pass, they can pin their ears back no matter what and get after him. Now, the way that the Colts mitigate that is through a good running game, and then they could have play action and they could get in the 49ers' heads thinking, okay, well, is this going to be a run? Is this going to be a pass? That can take the steam out of the pass rush. So that's why this goes back to offense and special teams for the 49ers. If they can get ahead in this game, they don't have to worry as much about the threat of handoffs on every down, and then they can get after the 44-year-old grandpa at quarterback. That's how it all ties together. The offense has to be the locomotive that pulls the train, and special teams by extension. Then you can get the Colts in a bad spot. The Colts were up 10 against the Seattle Seahawks last week. The Colts they were rolling, and that allowed them to keep that game close until the very end. I can almost guarantee you that if this goes the opposite way, if the 49ers are up 10 or by 2 possessions early, the Colts won't look nearly as competent with a 44-year-old quarterback as they did last week. So it's about getting out in front in a dome, perfect conditions. Remember the Colts are missing their top 2 corners in this game, so they may have a really, really good run defense, but they're down Sauce Gardner and they're now in Charvarius Ward. You have to take it to that perimeter if you're the 49ers. And it's not just them missing 2 corners against the pass game. Maybe that opens up some perimeter running for the 49ers as well. So I want to answer some questions. My goal is to probably take this until the music starts blaring over the loudspeakers. What time is it, everyone? Can you guys let me know what time it is? I'm looking at my phone screen right now and I can't see the time because I'm using the phone to record this video. So if you guys can just, a couple of you can put the time into the comment section. It's 3:02 Pacific, so 6:02 here. They might not start the music for another 13 minutes. The gates are going to open in 13 minutes. That's Brock Purdy's number. He faces off against Phillip Rivers. So maybe we can sit here and talk for 13 more minutes until the lights in this, the music in this building comes on. Again, this is Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the NFL Combine, obviously home of the Indianapolis Colts, built in 2008, right in the middle of Peyton Manning's illustrious NFL career. It has a retractable roof, which will be closed tonight because it's chilly outside. It's not frigid, but it's chilly outside in Indianapolis. It's going to get down to 30 degrees, the nighttime low. It could be a lot worse. I'm not complaining about that. We're walking distance from downtown. I guess you could say we are in downtown. That is the skyline. This is the field. That is north. This is south. We have news that DK Metcalf just got suspended 2 games for that altercation with the Detroit Lions fan. 49ers, though, will thank DK Metcalf and the Pittsburgh Steelers and established 49ers fan Aaron Rodgers for their help, because San Francisco entering this game on Monday Night Football against Indianapolis has already clinched a playoff berth. How about that? The pressure taken off of the 49ers over these final 3 games. They're already in the postseason. And that's just, I want everybody, and I know I've said this a couple times, we've done a few videos since this has happened, take a step back and cherish where the 49ers are at. Even if they lose tonight, and it's possible because the Colts are a good football team, and Phillip Rivers, I will admit, is a little bit of a wild card. But even if they lose tonight, they have already reached 10 wins and the postseason with 3 games left to play. I don't think anyone was predicting that after Fred Warner went down in Week 6 against Tampa Bay. The amount of adversity that this team has overcome, and I always compare it to other teams. I give the injury comp, right, what the 49ers have lost. I don't think there's another team in the NFL that would have withstood what the 49ers lost this year between Brock Purdy, Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Micah Williams, Ricky Pearsall. I mean, the list seems to go on. And the 49ers have even lost their kicker for a couple games this year. I don't think that there's anyone else in the NFL that could have withstood what the 49ers have withstood to be 10-4 at this point. And I think you got to build a Mount Rushmore to honor John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh, and Brant Boyer, the leaders of this effort, because it's taken all four of those guys. It's taken a deep roster to begin with. It's taken a head coach and a play caller like Kyle Shanahan, who is at the top of his game. It's taken an ace defensive coordinator to make something out of very little in Robert Saleh. It's taken Brant Boyer, who's architected the a historic worst to first run on special teams for the 49ers this year. It's taken all four of those guys to get San Francisco to the point where they're 10-4 entering this Monday Night Football game. As you watch today, you know, I can't really force you to watch in a certain way, but I can really encourage you to just have fun. Don't stress because the 49ers have already made the playoffs, and appreciate that at this point they're playing with house money. And now I know that there's a carrot dangling at the end of the stick that is very, very tantalizing. And that carrot is that the 49ers, if they win tonight, they don't have to leave Levi's Stadium again to potentially win a Super Bowl. That to me is the most insane, bizarre factoid that would go along with the 49ers win tonight. Because if they win, they don't have a single regular season game scheduled away from Levi's Stadium. They've got the Bears and the Seahawks, and if they win those two as well on top of tonight, it would be a clear path to the Lombardi Trophy with 3 home wins, including one at Levi's Stadium, which is the host of this year's Super Bowl. So I understand both sides of this. I understand that, 49ers fans should be appreciative of the insane run that's gotten it to this point. But they can also be a little bit nervous just because you could probably already taste what might be ahead if the 49ers can win tonight. And I guarantee that there'll be disappointment if they lose, because that very, very clear path to the Super Bowl will be extinguished. So there are two sides to this. There's a lot on the line tonight, but I don't want people to lose their enjoyment of what's happened over the past 14 games just because they're so worried about what's ahead. I think that it's so important, not only in sports, but in life in general, to sit back and appreciate accomplishment. And what the 49ers have been able to do this year, I think is truly, truly special. It's something that I think none of us saw coming. I thought they might be able to squeak their way into the playoffs back in week 6 after Fred got hurt. I was out there at Tampa Bay. He shattered his ankle. It was a gruesome scene. It was coming off of the Bosa injury. Brock was indefinitely out at that point. It was turf toe. I thought, okay, maybe they squeak their way into the number 7 seed, but they probably get eliminated right away. We're talking about controlling destiny for the 1 seed now and a playoff berth secured with 3 weeks to go. The next part of this insanely gripping novel is going to unfold on this field. Just don't lose sight of what's already happened, because stress is, don't worry, you'll have plenty of chances to stress out over the coming weeks. Keep on relishing that playoff berth, though, because it truly is an accomplishment for the 49ers. Why don't we look up here? I want to see some of the Colts banners. Let's look at some of Indianapolis Colts franchise history. Obviously, that Super Bowl in 2006 for Peyton Manning, that was some of the good stuff. Who were they playing? The Chicago Bears? I think he was up against the Bears. Yeah, I think that was the Chicago Bears and what's his name? The great linebacker. I'm totally blanking on his name for the Bears back in 06. How am I, Mike, somebody remind me. The great linebacker for the Bears, or Brian Urlacher for the Bears. That was in 06 when the Colts beat them in the Super Bowl. That was in the middle of the dark ages for the 49ers. Then you got some other banners here. You've got the AFC South champions in most of the years that Peyton Manning was the quarterback. I could see 2003, 04, 05, and 06 with the AFC championship happening in 06. Now, a lot of times they would win the AFC South and they would fall short to the Patriots. That obviously was the big playoff rivalry between the Colts and New England at the top of the AFC. But they did get the best of the Patriots in 2006. And I think the music is going to be starting here, and I promised I'd go all the way to the music. They got the best of the Patriots in 06, and then Peyton got the best of New England again when he was in Denver. All right, music is starting, and I don't want it to mess with my videos. So everybody enjoy the game tonight. It's been fun.